The following video contains spoilers. We suggest watching the episodes alone in the dark. Class is in session, Wolfpack. Catastrophe here, and tonight we're going to, at long last, analyze one of the most legendary two-parters from our favorite horror anthology saga. The other one, Goosebumps! Once again, this review has been frequently requested by our audience of like 10 people, and for good reason. R.L. Stine fans absolutely adore this epic, and consider it peak horror storytelling, enjoyable for all ages. I'm not just building this episode up either. Goosebumps viewers really love this tale, so much that they've been requesting I review it since way back in our Haunting Hour days. It's that loved.
I'm rich and I'm dead sexy. Oh, yeah.
Unlike most Goosebumps episodes, The Perfect School was actually adapted from a short story from R.L. Stine's collection, Even More Tales to Give You Goosebumps, rather than being based on a single novel. At this point, we've talked about multiple short stories being turned into feature-length episodes for the Goosebumps TV show. But this is one of the rare mini-tales which was turned into a two-parter. I'm pleasantly surprised, since this could have been an easy, simpler tale to do, as the short is not very long, yet the producers actually wanted to grant this plot more depth, just for fun. According to the Goosebumps wiki, this story was originally set to be a one-part episode. However, the team had so much fun exploring the potential of this scary setting that they ended up with tons of extra footage and material for an hour-long journey, resulting in this being double the usual length. It's honestly a great sign that the showrunners wanted to add more to a Goosebumps plot, since it shows how much investment they had working on granting you fans an equally riveting, in-depth nightmare. Did all their hard work pay off? Well, that's what we plan to learn for ourselves. I should also warn you that this episode often gets mixed up with Goosebumps' The Haunted School, since the distributors basically use the cover of a different R.L. Stine book for the DVD/Blu-ray copy of this epic story arc. The Haunted School is a radically different adventure, and I believe this choice was made merely for marketing purposes. Though you'd be shocked how often naive crowds still mix up The Perfect School and The Haunted School thanks to this decision.
Quit messing with my head!
It's a darn shame The Haunted School never got recreated in TV form, but that's okay, since The Perfect School is definitely a worthy entry for our terror classic. This alteration is just one of those poor choices which was supposed to be practical for the show, yet ended up confusing some folks, like the removal of Night of the Living Dummy 1.
It's good to be back in the family again.
For those of you wondering how faithful this is to the original, don't fret. Despite adding a ton of new unique concepts, the story overall is very loyal to the page. There are some blatant changes which we will address, but luckily, I believe book fans will be extremely satisfied how close this story is to Stine's short. And it's generally agreed that the new stuff complemented the story more than took away from. This is a major fan favorite story, so you're all probably wondering if it remains horror valedictorian or has some imperfections on its permanent record. So let's cease with these elaborate intros and grade this assignment. After all these years, is The Perfect School still perfect? Grab your red pens, because it's time to see if this episode passes or fails. This is our wacky riff view on the beloved Goosebumps two-parter, Perfect School. So, our episode opens up with two kid brothers left home alone while their parents are out on the town. But uh-oh, there's a lurker on the loose while the O'Connor parents brag over what could possibly go wrong.
We'll get dessert next time, I promise. If it wasn't their first time home alone, it wouldn't be a problem. It'll just make me feel better if we don't stay out too late.
Too late? Honey, they've only been alone for an hour and a half. I mean, what could go wrong in an hour and a half?
Tonight, you.
This is easily my favorite fake-out opening from the show, since we later find out that our protagonist, a boy named Brian, actually stages this phony home invasion prank all just to scare his lil bro, and he takes it to extreme levels. How funny is it that Goosebumps has a creepily realistic stranger danger fake out in a kid's show? I love how far it goes to fool us. Chuck and Steve would be proud. We meet our true main character, Brian O'Connor, a troublemaking youth who constantly irritates his family, and this prank is the last straw, as the parents have him sent off to a perfect boarding school over the summer to scare him straight. Oh boy.
No one in this family can take a joke.
What you did went well beyond a joke, Brian.
Yeah, son, this isn't nearly as funny as last week when you pretended to be Al-Qaeda. Now, the setup is slightly altered. In the book, Brian gets sent off to perfect school since his parents view him as a disappointment who needs discipline. While on the show, it's more so a punishment for his mean behavior. I kind of like that change, since it establishes our protagonist as more of a snippy delinquent with personality, rather than the blank slate he is in the literature. Not to mention, Brian receives a legit nice character arc of evolving from a bratty dick into a far more noble hero by the end, which definitely makes him a remarkable kid hero for the show. You genuinely grow to like Brian O'Connor as the narrative treks on, since he really matures, gains some sympathy once he's oppressed by the villains, and notably gets wiser from his haunting hijinks. We start to see that Brian's actually a jerk with a heart of gold deep down, so as a result, you actually want to cheer him on during his mystery sleuthing. Plus, our main man is seriously played by the greatest horror video game character of all time, Albert Wesker. That's right, Wesker! From the Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil movies.
Well, isn't this one big family reunion?
Yeah, remember how cool when Jill Valentine was on Awesome Ants? Well, we now gain Albert Mofo Wesker as our main lead on an already phenomenal Goosebumps plot. And yes, I shall be referring to him as Kid Wesker all throughout this review, because I am so mature. Who's that character? It's Wesker!
Umbrella?
Wesker's betrayed his family's trust for the last time, so he's off to a reform school to become perfect, where he soon befriends the important side characters, CJ the badass rebel and the nerd Joe, who will be his wacky partners in crime. The show wastes no time quickly establishing the perfect school, an oppressive prison-like campus deprived of all free thinking, creativity, the unorthodox, and troubled behavior. The school's ultimate goal is to, what else? Teach children to become perfect model citizens, obedient to sophisticated society by any means necessary. They naturally re-educate kids by forcing them to comply to their strict rules, purge them of their old personas, and remove any toxic items that could interfere with their learning.
I said relinquish all personal items.
As you'd expect, this immediately makes the school super creepy, as they have this almost Nazi-esque mentality and treat the kids more like prisoners than students. If you can believe it or not, this imagery was even more blatant in the book and graphic novels, where the staff practically wore Empire uniforms.
Subtle!
I totally love this setup, since it reminds me of the Twilight Zone's obsolete man. It's a more colorless, cold, calculating organization over the more in-your-face evil empire who wears their villainy on their sleeves. It's obvious that this place is a cult-like villain lair, but unlike Evergreen, they're falsely promoting this place as a caring school, which is truly helping reform bad kids into perfect role models, making it all the more terrifying since you're left pondering what's really going on here. I know I often criticize evil cults, since they kinda run together whenever lazily written, but Goosebumps surprisingly treats them as terrifying enemies, and does a good job at having the bad guys disguise their wicked intentions behind a well-meaning purpose, which they truly believe will help the world. It packs a lot more weight when we see the bad guys faking their reasonable nice guy act and believing their delusions compared to instantly revealing the cult's bad when they drug kids, forcibly remove their possessions, and have a corrupt secret police. I think Goosebumps does the ominous cult better, since they respect their audience's intelligence. All this is elevated by our main antagonist, the perfect school's headmaster, the voice of the prestigious academy. This dude is a pretty scary baddie, as he runs the school very much like a business, and often acts more like a warden instead of a principal. I like the guy playing the headmaster. He's not quite the emperor of the perfect school, but more like the Soundwave. They imply that he's simply one figure of a massive network of many like him, which certainly adds to the nightmarish power hidden beneath this perfect school. Though, don't worry, the headmaster gets to have his own sinister villain moments to show the creepy mindset behind his methods.
Gentlemen, your lives as you know them are about to change for the better. Your days of disobedience and troublemaking have come to an end. From this moment forward, you will do what you are told when you are told. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not move unless directed to. You may not like it, but this is the way we do things here.
Welcome to hell!
So yeah, the perfect school is quite glorious at being scary, and the school staff, dubbed the Guardians, are surprisingly strong at adding that layer of mystery in this silly kid show. A colossal step up from the stupid killer Sponge.
This is better than the X-Files.
Though they did slightly alter the school's layout from the book. In the short, the school was so powerful that they had a train bring students in like a death sentence. Since we all know by this point that Goosebumps does have budget limitations, they were not able to bring the Auschwitz Express to life. which is fine since the school bus makes the class feel more realistic. Also, in the book, the school was co-ed. It had both boys and girl students attending. However, the TV show made the institution an all-boys school. Personally, I don't think it matters, as there really weren't many female characters in the novel. And this change does make the school feel like a super prestigious private school, so it does seem like the show made the base even creepier when girls aren't allowed. The all-boys campus works out better, as guys feel more singled out and are easier to break in if they feel like they're all on an equal playing field, making these baddies even more sinister. Sorry ladies, but you should count yourselves lucky not being near this place. You should see what Albert gave to his last girlfriend. While waiting in line, Wesker gets into a rumble with another kid named Billy Brown. Fun fact, the jerk janitor is named after Goosebumps and Haunting Hours showrunner / writer Billy Brown, as a cute little in-joke from his pals. I hope Mr. Brown got a good kick out of this.
Oh, I see. Well, it's not funny unless he's down on his knees, scooping up your little brat's puke!
However, we see that the perfect school has zero tolerance for fights.
But he started it.
I'm finishing it. Take him away.
No!
He'll be fine. Part 1 is mainly showing off the perfect school setting, which is delightfully unnerving, since it appears as if it really is an elite university, but the vast emptiness and lack of children having fun successfully makes it feel like there's something more behind the scenes. What makes this Goosebumps tale so impressive is that there's no goofy monsters hidden in the dark, or some outlandish supernatural magic, but rather a grim world holding children against their will, doing all the scares instead. I love that the episode takes its time gradually showing us how this school operates, how danger waits to pounce, and the fact that the teachers are ominously manipulating the students into some secret evil plan. It's so much scarier than any of the hokey effects. Special mention, of course, going to the headmaster, who is a supremely charismatic foe. Thankfully, the story has just as much film effort to disturb us as well. The strongest highlight, I have to say, is this episode's atmosphere. The setting does an outstanding job recreating the vibe of the book, as the school feels very soulless and devoid of any friendliness. Heck, even the kids quickly fail to adjust to such an icy world.
It's good to have land.
The kids are basically ordered around, forced to obey all rules under penalty of being taken to an unseen advanced program, and can't even eat more than what they're given. Small details like that truly make the perfect school stand out amongst other evil cult stories. You know this school is evil, however, they keep us guessing as to why they're doing all this. Plus, this story also has tons of rewatch value, since some of these scenes actually foreshadow the big twist. Like here, when the kids are taking special tests, asking them some very personal questions unrelated to schoolwork.
There must be a million pages here. Yeah. Check out the questions. What's your favorite food? What do you call your parents? What's your first memory?
And where it says sex, I'll write no thanks, I'm dead. It's bulletproof.
I sincerely love this writing, since unlike many other Goosebumps tales, there was genuine thought and brilliant moments that tie this plot neatly together in the end. Every scene in this has a purpose, and the scary moments work because a greater evil is hiding within the smaller evil. This type of horror makes me appreciate the Goosebumps show so much more, since this episode shows how clever this series could be. Things get even creepier when Wesker meets with Billy Brown again, who appears different. Billy apologizes for his negative attitude and makes peace with Wesker, making it clear that this is not the same guy from earlier.
I just want to apologize for the misunderstanding yesterday. Please forgive me. I was quite rude.
And I also wish to apologize for my episode It Came From Beneath the Sink. It's really a comedy too good to be funny. This is weird enough to convince Wesker to try his idea.
Really? What is it?
Let's leave!
Too bad this place is a prison. We get a pretty intense sequence of Wesker struggling to escape and see how utterly ruthless the headmaster is as he unleashes all forces.
I want a full lockdown of the facility and a door-to-door head count. Anyone caught outside the room will be severely punished.
Whoever it is may already be gone, sir.
No one's escaped from the perfect school, and no one ever will.
Continuing my praise for the setting, you do gotta admire how huge this episode goes. Not only do they have this big fancy scare school campus, but they literally have armed guards, spotlights, electric fences, and epic chase sequences for this two-parter. This has more money than Awesome Ants. It's good to see how this is the first school which isn't hiding the fact that it's a prison. The only thing missing from this place are cybernetic gnomes. Tower Prep has nothing on this academy. It's a darn great chase scene, as Wesker uses his Matrix moves to dodge the Guardians and return to his room just in time during the headmaster's bedroom checks. Not only is it a badass Scooby-Doo chase, but this also shows us that fooling these villains is going to be tricky.
I might have known.
Known what, sir? Sorry I took so long. I thought it would be rude for me to answer the door in my pajamas.
Accounted for.
Nice try, Headmaster, but the only way to beat Wesker is if you had the one thing that can kill him. A falling door.
Chris? Stop it.
Wesker, you're pitiful.
The next morning, Wesker and pals chit-chat, realizing that escaping this place is gonna be nigh impossible. For once, our kid hero instantly puts it together that he's in a scary story now. While talking with his bros, CJ suggests that there could be a mole among the class, hinting that the nerd Joe could be a traitor. This leads us into the other scary element from this episode. Who can you trust? As far as we know, the villains of this episode are regular human beings who are trying to coerce kids into acting perfect under their program. However, the episode includes this creepy concept that some of the kids may already be plants, meant to weed out hidden troublemakers. This helps make the perfect school much deadlier, since the idea that they have a snitch among the class gives you the feeling that they're always watching and know their every move before they even blink.
Can't you see it's a massive government conspiracy? Or have they gotten to you too?
The paranoia fuel is strong with this episode, as Wesker begins to suspect that Joe is hiding something, since the nerd is always obeying the rules. Though, anyone else find it humorous how Wesker, the king of backstabs, is wondering who he can trust?
You better hope I don't get caught, Joe. Because if I do, I might think you had something to do with it.
I don't think you want to die just yet.
Later that night, our hero breaks into the headmaster's office where he sees a portrait of the school's founder, Mark Wahlberg.
What? No!
This is the closest we get to some deeper backstory regarding the school, since it means the current headmaster is not the true final boss who started this nightmare, but implies that the perfect school has been operating like this for generations, to the point that our main kid is just the first to uncover a long conspiracy. I appreciate the fridge horror hinting that the school has this secret long history we don't fully know, as it makes the twist more sickening, since the show suggests the school has been this way for Lord knows how long by today. I guess this portrait of a rich old dude teases that the school is run by wealthy elites to explain how the school can afford this stuff, which is a simple explanation, yet a terrifying one.
Money!
Wesker attempts to call his parents to transfer out of the creepy class, finding some tissue samples of the kids lying on the principal's desk.
This trail of used tissues should lead us right to Mort.
Or to Quagmire.
He's gross.
Before he can finally talk to his mom, he gets disconnected by the headmaster, who warns him that he'll be granted course correction for this.
Your program will be accelerated starting tonight. Get him out of here.
Now I get to administer spankings. Just when Wesker goes back to bed giving up, Part 1 ends on the most frickin' ghoulish cliffhanger I've ever seen, where our kid hero gets drugged and abducted by back alley doctors. Holy cow, is that scary good? If you thought the opening was legit unnervingly real, then get a load of this. How many times can you say that a kid's show ends on a child getting drugged and taken while he sleeps? This image alone is pure nightmare fuel.
Hang this picture over your baby's crib tonight!
The family picture.
I've put it off for a bit, but this episode truly does a grand job at showing how horrific the adults running the school are. What makes the perfect school so haunting, especially for kids, is how all the adults and teachers are supposed to be helping these students and care for them, but really are deranged monsters causing more harm towards them behind closed doors. While we do get a jolly kick out of the demons and ghosts, there's just something so monstrous about ordinary human beings committing these sick experiments on children and hiding their villainy behind what they believe is a noble cause. This episode is made scary because children are in the hands of these twisted bastards who pretend they care, but don't mind discarding their safety, all in the name of some insane end goal. The harm towards children is a true unholy terror, which this episode utilizes greatly. Speaking of which, on day 4, Wesker is operated on by demented doctors underground, where the cameraman rewards us these trippy angles and lens effects to make it feel even more nauseating. This is unironically terrifying, as they perform tests on a barely conscious kid, since it almost feels like something straight out of Hannibal. he wakes up and assumes that it was all just a dream. But fortunately, Wesker's no fool, and he's fully aware something's up with this school. You know, it's honestly a relief when we finally get a clever kid in an R.L. Stine story, since it makes you want to chant for the heroes to live instead of anticipating their eventual downfall. I know, right? Rooting for smart characters in a spooky story? What spore of madness is this? Wesker and CJ still suspect that the nerd Joe is a spy, as he constantly sucks up to the Guardians without problem.
Great story. Check out the teacher's pet.
He's a snake man? But they get busted talking in class, where Wesker is sent to the head counselor. At last, he finally confronts Joe, asking if he's a narc man, but in a shocking reveal, Joe confesses his true plan. He's not a mole, but he's only pretending to play nice and acting friendly towards the school staff in order to gain their trust and get set free ahead of schedule.
Ever heard the phrase, go along to get along?
Can't say that I have.
They think I love it here. They say I'm the most cooperative student they've ever had. And you know what? I'm the last person they'd ever expect to escape from this place.
Oh, finally! Smart kid characters in Goosebumps stories!
That's all I ever wanted!
I do enjoy this minor twist, since it helps keep the audience on their toes over who to trust, as Joe reveals that he has his own scheme to get out of this joint, and does actually give our hero a new idea on how to break out of the cult of Courtney. This twist does seem small, but will play a huge part in Wesker's journey. Not to mention, it gives Joe a deeper character, since he does admit that he knows this place is evil too, and he's on Team Wesker, adding more unease. As he sits around in the principal's office while Joe's lectured, we also get the best part of the book, where Wesker hears the echoes of kids screaming in agony through the vents. This was one of the most unsettling elements from the original, as it exposes the truth that there are kids being held prisoner deeper underground, and finally makes our protagonist understand that something eviler than these narcs lecturing kids is occurring. This is just the tip of an unholy iceberg of insanity emerging. The school's prison tone is ramped up to unsettling degrees. Next thing you know, schools will force kids to pledge allegiance to the pride flag. Kid Wesker gets lured by the sounds to a private office, where he finds intel on what the school's doing to them. He sees that the academy has a nursery of some sort, separated from the rest of the area, and learns from the 90s computer that his profile is nearing completion.
You've really become quite an inconvenience for me.
But, uh-oh, one of the Guardians learns of his illegal computer access, nearly locating our bro. But if you've ever played Marvel vs. Capcom, you'd know Wesker's too fast.
Marvel suit, you are nothing to me!
Thank goodness the school is built in with Arkham Asylum vents, otherwise it'd be game over for the kid. The great Wesker, reduced to crawling around the filthy vents like a rodent. How pedestrian.
Wesker, you're pitiful.
Our dude makes it back to CJ, pleading for help, since he intends to break out again for reals before the school is done with him. But he needs a distraction, which means we get a good old-fashioned prison riot.
One distraction coming up.
Hey! Riot!
Whew. Thank goodness this prison school doesn't have any falling doors, or Wesker be screwed. But literally hours later, the wicked headmaster finally sees that Wesker is gone. Yes, seriously, it's hours later until the school's leader realizes that the hero is no longer still in his waiting room. What were you doing?
As for you, Mr. O'Connor.
Sir, we have a fight in Sector A.
Wesker!
And naturally, it's a dark and stormy night when Wesker finally attempts Operation Breakout, while all the Guardians comb the area, only for our hero to stumble upon the nursery. It's here where we get to our grand twist. After walking through the Resident Evil lab, which was real after all, Wesker discovers what the school has really been up to the entire time. Just an FYI, this is where the show and the novel kind of differ. They have the same big horror reveal, however, their methods are slightly altered. The perfect school is creating perfect clones of all their students, so they can replace the real kids when it's time to send them back to their families. The perfect school is genetically engineering evil clones. These are the perfect ones, specially designed, flawless recreations of children who the evil organization seeks to plant among families around the globe. They're imprisoning the true flesh and blood children within the walls of their top facility, then sending out their agents into every home among the outside society. Once a perfect child is implanted within every household, they will soon have enough perfect clones to spring into action in order to take over the world.
Of course!
Now, in the book, the perfect ones were actually robots. It was another homage to the Stepford Wives, where the evil perfect society was replacing flawed human beings with their advanced models of flawless beauty. On the page, the kids were built with technology, but the show couldn't pull off that idea.
Money!
Some versions of the book actually did draw unsettling artwork of the robot children, which does look as creepy as on the page. The artists apparently had Terminator on the brain, as they look like mini mechas. However, the TV show changed this. They go from evil robots to full-on brainwashed clones. They have blood, tissue, organs, and all.
The best genes money could buy.
This change sincerely makes the perfect ones a lot more horrifying than the robot versions, because in this narrative, it's implied that the school has been keeping the kids alive and imprisoned so as to keep genetic material for their test tube babies. The real children are being used as emergency blood donors if the clones require medical treatment, which is 1,000 times scarier than in the novel. This was the true purpose of the perfect school the whole time. All the tests, the experiments, the studying of their behavior was all a way to make lifelike clones of the kids to replace them in normal society. By making them fully fleshed out people also adds a dark quality to how sick the school is, since their projects aren't just robots being built to act the perfect way. The perfect ones are sentient people being conditioned to obey the cult. The perfect school has its own Halo Spartan program and is forcing them to be their elite agents. The clone children have no choice but to be used by higher villains and raised evil. They are meant to steal somebody else's life while having nothing of their own, and are only living pawns. I truly think it's way scarier that living kids are being trained to be evil and obedient, rather than the robots, who are simply mindless drones without feelings on an assembly line.
Machine. machines making machines. How first.
Goosebumps even indulges in some deranged imagery as well, where a protagonist sees clone cells, unborn fetuses, and even realizes what the computer really meant when it said he was almost done processing, 'cause it's actually his grown clone, ready for perfection.
Are you saying I was manufactured?
That split second of Clone Wesker ripping out the umbilical cord is nasty. This also covers up the plot hole some folks had with the book, where it'd definitely be harder to trick families with robots replacing their kids, since the show introduces incredibly lifelike evil twins who can pass for human, but also retain their loyalty to their creators. I did find it weird with the perfect ones being robots, since that does raise questions on how the normal people interacting with them wouldn't realize they were mechanical. What I'm trying to say is that this change shockingly makes the story much better, as it fixes a tiny issue that did harm the narrative and somehow feels a ton scarier than the source material. It's a change which managed to make this already great story into a phenomenal horror thanks to entering grimmer places than this children prison already did before. The Perfect School is officially a disturbing mastercraft, since the big reveal is that the university had no intentions to ever help the kids at all, and every gesture was really a means to an end, tricking them into getting replaced with a better child their parents will love. The grand twist at the Perfect School is really an evil laboratory devising clone soldiers to steal people's lives is undoubtedly one of the best horror twists of Goosebumps.
Look, Rock! I got an award!
But we're not done yet. There's still a good story we have to finish. Wesker freaks out and bumps into CJ, where he warns him about the ugly truth.
I know how they do it. How they do what? How they create the perfect kid. They're cloning us. The voices, they're the real kids. They must be locked away downstairs. They send the replacements home with the parents.
That's impossible.
No, it's not. They did it with sheep over in Scotland. These guys, they just took it a step further.
Stop! 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 Are you okay? No.
The dynamic duo go off to save the trapped kids, but haha, we get a double twist, revealing that CJ was the spy all along.
Look on the bright side. Your parents are gonna get what they always wanted. The perfect kid.
I know book fans saw this twist coming, but I believe the episode did a tremendous job throwing us off with this turn, since the show actually inserted the nerd character Joe as an obvious red herring who did seem buddy-buddy with the perfect cult. So I was quite surprised when it turned out how the seemingly cool kid trying to help Wesker survive was actually a deep cover plant working against him the whole time. I commend the writers for making the traditional exposition best friend character a twist villain, since it's a huge payoff to that who can you trust fear. Take note, writers, this is how you pull off an exceptional twist villain. It was a genuine shock because the episode cleverly has CJ act like an ally and uses Joe as an obvious red herring. CJ blends in so well since Joe had more evidence stacked against him at the start, which the mole used to his advantage. Rewatching this episode, knowing that CJ is a spy the whole time, made me love this twist a ton more, because now we know every time CJ was trying to convince our hero how Joe was the mole was really a clever ruse to throw suspicion off of himself at every turn.
You magnificent bastard, I read your book!
This episode is so good that I'm praising minor side characters. How you do that, Perfect School? Too bad CJ was trying to best Wesker as our hero fights back and tosses his ex-bro to the pissed-off tortured subjects, who tear him apart. We never see CJ ever again, so yeah, we're forced to assume that they shredded him.
Family fiction!
Sadly, as he tries dropping out, Wesker suffers the attack of the clones, and no extended Senate scenes can save him now.
You're not going anywhere. Except back to the lockup with the rest of them.
This is the one part of the arc which does upset me. Wesker comes face to face with his evil clone and is surrounded, but we never see what happens next as we cut away to a different aftermath scene entirely. What? Aw, come on, Goosebumps. You had this badass, disturbing finale, and we cut away before we even see Wesker kick ass? Now we'll never see his sunglasses move.
Don't fight it, Brian. It's good to be perfect.
You should have brought more.
What the fuck?
It sucks that we never see what follows, but luckily, this tale does win us back. Instead, we cut to our twist ending, where we see Wesker back home, finally acting like the perfect child his parents wanted him to be. Loving them, listening to them, and starting a clean slate. However, we get a triple twist. It turns out that Wesker is really our original main character, pretending to act nice as he secretly swapped places with his evil clone all along.
I will not be held back by such insects.
Yep, in a surprise happy Goosebumps twist ending, it's revealed that our hero is still A-OK, and won out in the end. You see, back at the school, when our kid hero met his double, the Weskers had an off-screen death battle, where our real main man defeated the agent and soon pretended he was the clone to finally escape Perfect School, while the duplicate was locked inside in his place, where the other kid prisoners are dragging him down so he doesn't ruin real Wesker's plans. Since, in a quadruple twist, with the real Wesker on the outside, he hatches a scheme to break everyone stuck in detention out, gaining the perfect revenge on the perfect school, and having time gluing his brother's ass to chairs on the side.
Someone put glue on my chair. Really? Why would someone do that on purpose? Must have been an accident.
Now, this is the last change from the novel. In the original ending, our protagonist did escape by the same means, but it instead ends on a more horrific note. Brian barely got out of the evil school and is pretending to be perfect out of fear of getting sent back to prison. His parents suspect that he's a perfect robot now, so Brian has to keep up an act so he won't be trapped again. Our hero turns into a broken, scared coward who must maintain this facade for the rest of his life under fear that he'll be killed and replaced by the evil school if ever exposed, while the wicked university continues its nightmarish scheme, only temporarily inconvenienced. The show's ending is honestly way more awesome, since our kid hero perseveres in the face of evil and comes out on top, even promising that he'll be back to destroy the education system. This conclusion is a lot more fun and uplifting, since not only do we end on an epic happy note that Wesker's war just began, but this change grants Brian proper closure to his character arc. This guy, who initially began as a bratty, douchey punk, is now a total badass hero who abandoned all his cruelty and grew smarter in order to not only escape the vile school, but also plans to selflessly save the other kids like him. Now that's a truly magnificent Goosebumps hero. Wesker lives up to his maximum awesomeness. Plus, this was actually built up wonderfully. Remember earlier when Wesker is speaking with Joe at the pattern room? Well, Joe actually gave him this idea.
You think I've been all warm and friendly with these guys because I'm working for them? Man, I'm a better actor than I thought.
What are you talking about?
Ever heard the phrase, go along to get along?
Can't say that I have.
It's amazing that our protagonist learned from this adventure, since he uses Joe's advice of pretending to play nice and proper to seamlessly steal his clone's life and escape like Joe said. He took his advice and used it to at last defy the insidious institution and best his clone. He defeated him with his one weakness: a falling door.
The best jeans money could buy.
That small detail helped form this guy into one of the dandiest Goosebumps heroes ever. I love this ending, as the writers gave it a valuable upgrade, which made this horror story more badass than the novel's end. It's adventurous, cleverly thought out, and our Dick became a good guy, promising goodwill. And this tale closes out on Wesker beginning a daring rescue, where the teachers are gonna be the ones who get schooled.
Operation Rescue. Don't worry, guys. I'll get you out of there. It's the last thing I do. I'll get you out of there.
We shall meet again before the conclusion of this drama. Then, you will learn of the history I will write for this world.
And that was the end of the fan favorite Goosebumps assignment, Perfect School. How does it hold up?
Perfect!
To this day, The Perfect School is easily one of the most phenomenal two-parters from the Goosebumps show, because it is so much fun, so warped, and so well written that it was a colossal treat how well this episode holds up by today. Much like Awesome Ants, I am flabbergasted how much detail and hard work was poured into this. Season 3 was where Goosebumps was definitely testing the waters for newer, abstract concepts, and this was easily the biggest success. Screw the killer sponge, this tale feels like something right out of the X-Files. The haunting atmosphere, the intense horror, the grisly sci-fi scenarios, the amazing action, the ominous acting, the ghoulish villains, the engaging character arc, and the insane storytelling are pure good noodle stars. This is the type of terror which made Goosebumps so iconic. The showrunners allegedly had a ball playing with this idea and saw heavy potential for it, and that totally shows on screen. They took what was basically R.L. Stine's love letter for the Stepford Wives and made it even superior. All the changes, while practical, actually improved the short story and remade it into their own unique showcase. While we've seen these perfectionist evil cults time and time again, the Goosebumps show's take on it feels fresh and delves into the fridge horror more than any other episode of this show would. I admire the different approach to scary dread this two-parter tries out, since there's still some content here that's creepy even for adults. The plot of this episode is well done and offers some massively creative horror to amaze us. It really pushes what the show could get away with, as the school staff feel like thoroughly despicable villains who essentially human traffic their students, then devise replacement children with their way of thinking. The fact that this sick gig is done all in the name of filling the world with their vision of good children is true nightmare fuel of the highest order. Brian O'Connor might also be one of my favorite main leads from this series, since he's a magnificent bastard on par with Chris Wakely and Billy. This might be one of the most underrated protagonists Goosebumps ever had, since he does get decent character growth and unpredictable boss moments. I dare say he might surpass Carly Beth for some fans. He's only made cooler by the fact that he's played by Wesker. The Perfect School is full of equally fun foes. I really dig how vile these monsters are, how they act more like supervillains to match Goosebumps' tone, and how the twists and turns somehow make them more evil when we learn the depth of their madness. For a story where there's no magic, aliens, or spirits, I was never bored for a second. While we do love the supernatural creatures of this series, I admire how Goosebumps wasn't afraid to show us that sometimes the worst type of monsters can be human beings. Their desire for perfection is quite unnerving and leads to this fantastic nightmare. I have never heard if anyone hates this arc. The worst I've ever seen is that some people found it okay, but after seeing it again years later, I am impressed how timeless it remains. The Perfect School took a risk taking Goosebumps in a new direction of children's horror, and it passed with an A+. So, I grant this beloved Goosebumps project a gold skull and a perfect score. This has earned a place as one of my favorite stories from this saga. It was a good short story, and thanks to the showrunners, it blew up into an even greater adaptation. What's not to like? It is a grand Goosebumps nightmare, outlandishly terrifying, has clever writing, demented visuals, a wild setting, and even shows off the epicness of Wesker. Of course, I highly recommend it. You are not a Goosebumps fan if you haven't even seen this masterpiece. The Perfect School is a victorious accomplishment in this show's history, as it graduates with high honors. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, or just tune in for more videos posted here on Wolf Entertainment. I'm your host, Catastrophe, and I declare class dismissed.
Are you saying I was manufactured?